give them some advanced skills training, to give them some knowledge of the kinds of biotechnologies or technologies that we have just here, even on our own campus, and to put them in front of experts. So get the experts in these areas to come and speak to them and get them excited about the technology and the techniques and how they can use that in their day-to-day research. And the idea was if those young excited students would go back to their research groups and get their PIs excited, then that could help foster some collaboration on the campus. The project started about 2009 when we still had a biocenter, and part of the remit of that was to try to promote interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary sort of research on the campus. And so it was a way of trying to raise the profile of the research platforms that the university had. So that was SIM, CAF, the new chemical analytical facility, which opened up about that time, the Biocenter, which at the time was in operation, and CFA. So I started this in 2009. And in 2010, again coincident with this, the Biopharma Skills Initiative had started, and that was spearheaded by Christine Williams and Gavin Brooks, who at the time was our head of school. And so we were given the opportunity then to fund training for interns who were working in industry, and these were in biopharma, biotech industry. The idea was to then use this 10-day short course to train the interns and to provide that training for the biopharma industry. So we ran 5 modules. There were 2 days each. There were 40 participants per module, and these was a combination of lectures, face-to-face lectures, and practicals, computer-based practicals or lab-based practicals. And it also included a local visit to the Diamond Light Source synchrotron, which we have very strong links with. And of course, that's where a lot of life science and even sciences generally takes place. And given that it's been the UK's largest investment in science in the last 40 years, we thought it was a nice opportunity to kind of take these students and people there to see what's on offer, because of course they're keen to build links with industry and with us as well. The 40 participants came from industry, our postgraduate students across the campus, so we had people from soil science, agriculture, food, pharmacy, biological sciences. And we had 5 places that were funded by the UKRC for women in STEM. These were funding women who were returning to work after a career break. We had 11 companies involved, and as I say, this mixture of people, and it was funded by the consortium. And what it enabled us to do is to gather feedback. We used that to leverage funding from the BDSR CMTI fund, the modular training in industry. So these are the lessons that we learned from the pilot short course. We know that flexibility has to be at the core, and from a teaching and learning perspective, this is good because, of course, in sciences, biotechnologies and high throughput technologies has moved really rapidly. The science moves really fast. And so what we want is something that allows us to incorporate that emergent science. From a participant perspective, of course, it allows the opportunity of this sort of full-time, part-time. It allows working away at home. And the important thing that we learned was also work-based learning, so to incorporate elements of allowing people to use their own research at work as part of the sort of credit toward the modules. And of course, this idea of credit bearing and non-credit bearing. So again, a lot of the organizations we were working with, they weren't particularly concerned about credit bearing, but the opportunity is important for the participant. For the others, we have multiple entry and exit routes. And ideally, these multiple entry and exit routes, we allow people to do sort of just a one-off training thing for CPD credit. And we know from talking to professional bodies that that's also very important as well, and is becoming a core part of membership to a lot of the professional societies. And one of the things that we also learned from working with industry, and certainly the biopharma industry, this idea of multidisciplinary teams. So where you have someone from genetics, for example, and someone from bioinformatics, and someone from structural biology, you need to be able to cross-talk, and you need to be able to understand each other's science in a way that allows it to be really fully productive and functional. We also learned a variety of study modes and opportunities were important, so self-learning, peer group learning, so I think this is this notion of workshops, face-to-face, and as I say, the workplace learning, and I think that's something that we can't ignore. We have to be able to embed that into these modules. So it's very important that we also have engagement from industry. So a number of the people who are involved in the Assure course are still continuing to be involved in delivery of the modules that we're creating now. So these are people from industry. So that keeps the science relevant, it keeps it topical. So we started with 5 modules and then got down to 3 that were considered to be the 3 most sort of relevant to the industry currently. The BBSRC grant was a joint grant with the Open University. So some of the things that we learned from the Open University were the types of engagement in terms of the online delivery. And this is really important. We spent the first summer pretty much evaluating different modes of delivery through Blackboard, through Moodle, using different software, embedding different modes and means. And by the end of it, and this is what we've kind of settled on, is we have this is Articulate, and so we're using Articulate as a kind of, the Blackboard is the point of entry, but then Articulate is the way that these are fundamentally being delivered, and it allows us a lot of flexibility in terms of the types of materials and ways we can deliver these. But we have a pre-entry diagnostic, so the modules have levels, so we've got 3 different levels. There's an entry level, which is a very basic level that anybody can do without any prerequisite. Level 2 requires a certain amount of knowledge, and you have a pre-course diagnostic for each module, which will test your basic knowledge, and then will give you suggestions as to which point you should enter in at, whether it's 1, 2, or 3. And level 3 is basically the all singing, all dancing, if you're planning to go on to do this as an MSc program, professional doctorate, or what have you, and it involves residential learning, research type, or work-based learning, which would become part of the research credits. So T spent a lot of time, we had 2 very successful York students this year who helped to work on these Articulate presentations, and they worked to translate the lecture material from lecturers onto the Articulate using that sort of format and platform. Established. But we think there's a lot of scope. So we've got future developments, and again, these have been in discussion with industry and the professional societies. So we know these are things that they very much want and that we're working toward delivering in the future. And we think it's one of the things we've also had funding from the HEA, the Higher Education Academy, to look at internationalization of the curriculum. And again, this is important because it's linked to global employability. And what we're trying to produce is that next generation workforce. We want to make them, really tech savvy. We want to take advantage of the fact that they actually are probably a lot more tech savvy than we are, as we think this has value. We think that we've demonstrated through the pilot that it has a global biotech market. We know that professional societies are willing to endorse these modules as part of their professional development of their members. There's been some international marketing done here at the university to suggest that MSc in biotechnology might be a good route for us as a school, and I think that's something, quite personally, I think that this lends itself naturally to, because a lot of the work has been embedded and coming from biotechnology, and forming partnerships. And it's extending these skills training and doing the workplace learning, or the practical learning can be done also abroad, so we can take advantage of the new campus in Malaysia.